Good afternoon, everyone. Will here again from Crowdfund HQ in Newquay, bringing the next instalment of the NatWest RugbyForce 2017 crowdfunder campaign webinars to help you guys with your crowdfunder projects. Today we're talking about planning your project. Hopefully you all had a chance to look to watch last week's webinar, either live or on the video stream afterwards. That was just a brief intro into what crowdfunding is and who we are here at Crowdfunder. And today we're going to go into a bit more depth about planning your project. And this is the first three webinars that we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. Next two are going to be about creating your project and then finally running it. And there's also some PDF packs to go alongside these. So hopefully you've all got the Planning Your Project PDF pack downloaded and in front of you. No worries if not, you can all look at that a bit later. It's a bit more in depth on some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. So yeah, first things first, we're going to talk about some of the things you can be doing and should be doing over the coming weeks to get yourselves in the best possible position to run your project and get everything in place that you need. I've had a few of you ask me some questions about when you need to be getting your project live. I'll give you some more detailed sort of timelines about that in due course, but we're looking at a sort of mid-May at the latest to get your projects live. So obviously give yourselves enough time to run those projects for a few weeks and then do everything you need after that to be ready for the RugbyForce weekend at the end of June. So plenty of time, a fair few weeks between now and then to start really getting everything in place. And obviously that starts today with planning your projects. Some of you have already started adding your projects, which is great. I don't expect you to have done that yet, and that will be one of the key things to start doing over the next week or so after this webinar is actually going onto the Crowdfunder website and starting to add your project. I've given you all a specific link you need to use to do that, and that makes sure that your project is then linked to the campaign. No worries if you haven't done it, and if you've just added via our website, you can just let me know, and then I can make sure we link your project up to the campaign. So that would be something to do. First things first, after today, is to go ahead and start adding your project and having a look at some of the things that are required there. We'll talk more in depth about that in next week's webinar as well, which is all about creating your project and getting it up on the platform. So without further ado, let's move on to what we're talking about today, which is planning your project. Hopefully you'll all be able to see what I'm putting up on the screen now. I've got some lovely slides to share with you. So planning your project. What I'm going to do quickly is just recap for any of those that didn't see last week's webinar, which was a bit of an intro to crowdfunding and Crowdfunder. So we'll just have a bit of a quick recap into that now. Hopefully you can all remember the story about Phil and his Leeds Bread Co-op. This is our sort of favorite and probably the best example of how rewards-based crowdfunding can work. Phil wanted to start a bakery. He couldn't get any money from the bank, so he went to his community and asked them to give him the money to start his bakery. And in return, he was going to offer all of those people that pledged on his project the bread from his bakery once it was up and running. He had a great response. 49 days, 144 people raised over £8,500, was able to get started with his bakery, and then went on and delivered all of those rewards to his people that supported him. He was then able to also go back to the bank and found it a lot easier to get a loan after that because he had effectively validated his idea, and it was a really powerful tool he then had to go and get extra funding with. So that leads nicely onto this slide, which we did speak about last week, but there are many benefits to crowdfunding, not just about raising the money. So crowd validation, getting your community to back your project, not just you, but other people saying that they like your idea and what you're doing. Awareness, it's effectively a really great marketing tool. You spend 4 weeks shouting and shouting about yourself or your project. So it's a really great way of getting it out there to new people. You get advocates, you get people who aren't just telling you they're going to help or supporting your idea, they're actually putting their hands in their pockets. Those people are going to be with you the whole way through. They are now part of your journey, and they're going to be really powerful ambassadors moving forward for you and your project as well. Future funding, like we spoke about, Phil was able to go back to the bank, and using the Crowdfunder story, he was able to then easily get more money because he's been able to show that there's really a desire and a want for what it is he's doing. And finally, extra funding. It's a big part of what we do here at Crowdfunder, distributing our partners' money into our projects, and hopefully you'll all experience that as part of the RFU and NatWest campaign that's coming up. So planning your project, there's three main things to think about when planning your project. And hopefully if you've got the PDF open in front of you, there's a lot more detail around each one of these. If not, you can go back to it at a later date. But first things first is make a plan. So there is this really useful checklist in your PDF pack. You can use this. You can be a lot more high tech and use a spreadsheet. It's sometimes also really useful to get a calendar and basically start thinking about all the things that you need to do and when you're going to do them. So for example, if you're going to shoot a video, when are you going to do that? When are you going to get the footage shot? When are you going to get it edited? When are you going to get it completed? And be realistic with it. Don't say you're going to have everything done by tomorrow. Really start to plan ahead and think about what you're going to be doing. Like I said, there's a big long lead up into before your projects need to be live. So plenty of time to start really planning out what it is you need to do. Like I said, there's a checklist there, and these are all the essentials that we think that you should have all sorted and all planned out before going. So yeah, feel free to use that, take a look through that and start ticking off some of those boxes. And like I say, it could be a good idea to start plotting things out on a calendar, when you're going to do things, how you're going to do them, and who's going to do them, which leads on nicely to this next slide here. Who's going to be in your team? It's a tricky job running a crowdfunding project. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, so you don't want to be doing it all by yourself. Obviously, there's always going to be the project leader, which is probably you guys. You're the ones that are putting all of this together and making it happen. Ultimately, though, there's going to be some things that you're not so good at, but there are other people that are good at those things. So, like I said, someone who's really good at making video, someone who can write a good bit of content for your project page or for some of your marketing that you're going to be doing. A club legend, really specific to the projects that you're going to be running. Someone who has a really great pull within the club or within the community. Someone who's really able to shout about the project, and the fact that they're on board is going to make a big difference to the project. Someone who's great at social media, someone who knows their way around Facebook and Twitter, and someone you can pull in to help you with that. Some creative stuff, someone that can put together a few nice images for you to use to promote your project. So, it doesn't have to be one person for all these things. There will be lots of people that can do many of these things, and you might be able to do some of it yourself. But it's really important to start thinking about who these people in your team are going to be, what roles they're going to take, who can you pull in to help. And like I say, the more the merrier. It's a big job running a crowdfunding project, and you don't want to be doing it all by yourself. So that's a really important thing to start planning out and thinking about now. Then finally, as part of the planning process, is the crowd. This is arguably the most important part of it. Who is going to pledge on your project? You want to start thinking about that now, and you can use something like this where you actually start to map out all of the different groups of people that are going to be pledging on this project or are going to be interested in pledging on these projects, and start thinking about how you're going to get in touch with them. Who are the key people to talk to, and making sure you're getting them on board nice and early. So some of the key groups here, it normally always starts with friends and family. People people you're close to, people you're able to say, come on, you pledge first. Then a big one for all of your projects is going to be the players, coaches and supporters. So people within the club. The bulk of the pledges for these projects are going to come from people who know the club and who are involved in the club. So that's where we go back to thinking about those club legends, those important people within the club that have a big pull. Get them involved, get them on board early, get them talking about it. They're going to be really important. And then outside of that, you've got all sorts of other things, local people who appreciate what the club does, come down and watch the matches, figure out how you're going to start talking to them. Sponsors, your social media, get your social media in order, make sure you've got social media for your club, make sure you've got plenty of followers on there, make sure you've got someone who's updating those channels and keeping them fresh and keeping people engaged. It's really all about starting to map out who these groups of people are, and starting to think about opening channels into talking to these people, and start talking to them, talk to them about the project, warm them up, let them know it's coming, but make sure you're in a position when the project does go live that you have a really good open channel into all of these groups of people and you're able to get them going straight away. And as you can see from that graphic there, the way it really works is you speak to the people you can speak to, and the idea is they then go off and speak to people that they know. They influence other people, and you're going to get that snowballing effect, and that's where the project can really take off. So moving on to sort of nurturing your crowd, I mentioned it there, warming up your crowd, talking to people, getting them on board early, getting them thinking about the project, getting them talking about the project. Now, the two groups of people at the top of this slide are really important, and there's a really good table in the PDF pack that you could actually use feel free to print that off and actually fill it in. But it's effectively, you want to really start to nail down who you know that fit into these two categories, and that's super backers and influencers. Super backers are people that are going to pledge a lot of money on your projects. They are really important. Obviously, it's great to get lots and lots of people pledging small amounts, but anyone who can bring a large amount of money into the project is obviously going to really help. So this could be people of high net worth, people who have got a bit of money and are really passionate about the club. This could be local businesses, sponsorship sort of things. Start thinking about who these people are and start talking to them. Have you got them on board? Actually give yourself a task to get a verbal yes from these people, so you can tick it off and say, I know that I've got this amount coming from this person. You can start doing that now, and that's going to really stand you in good stead when the project comes around. Influencers are slightly different. They may well also pledge, but their pledge or their sort of them talking about the project is going to actually bring in a lot more pledges. So these could be people that have a good reach in the local community, good reach within the club, that are sort of club captains, important people in the club, important people in the community that are able to endorse your project. And by doing that, that's actually going to then bring in more pledges. So start to think about who those people are. Map them out, write them down, and get in touch with them and start talking to them about the project. Then underneath there, you've got all the other sort of main areas that we've already spoken about: personal contacts, your social media channels, local people, and then obviously players and coaches, which are really important for this. And really now what you can be doing is just start talking to them, making sure you've got a nice open channel and they're ready, they know what's happening, they know when it's coming. So when the project does go live, you can go straight to them, and you've got a really easy way of getting in touch and getting them onto the project. So it's all about planning who these people are, mapping it out, and really start thinking about about who you have in your network and who's going to be pledging on this project. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. It's a really good exercise to actually put it down on a bit of paper and see how many people you do actually know and are able to get in touch with, who are going to want to help and get involved with your project. So, as I mentioned, what's next? And it's really now, it's time to start adding your project to Crowdfunder. It's time to get yourself set up on our website, start putting the details in, and start filling in some of the information that's required. I'll send you an email again, because like I say, there's a specific link that you need before being able to add your project to make sure your project is part of the right campaign. But ultimately, that's the next thing to do. And then really just take a look through that PDF of the planning your project and start thinking about all of those things. Start thinking about who's going to be involved in your team, who's going to be helping you, run this project. What's your plan? When are you going to do things? What do you need to do? When are you going to do them by? And then who's in your network? Who are those super backers? Who are those key influencers? Start thinking about that, and alongside that, start getting some info on the Crowdfunder page. And then the next thing is another webinar in a week's time, which is all about creating a project. So hopefully by then you'll all have your project added in a basic form onto the website. You would have all seen what's required, and then we can really talk in detail about adding your rewards, thinking about setting a target, getting a video made, putting your descriptions together, and that sort of thing. So that's what we'll talk about next week. Like I said, I will send an email out later on today with just recapping what we spoke about there. Make sure you've all got the right links for everything. If you haven't been able to watch this live, you'll be able to watch a stream of this afterwards. And I'll make sure you've got all the links to be able to add your project and get your hands on those PDF packs. And of course, any questions in the meantime, give me a shout. Thanks very much.